Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about the books that I've read during the month of March. March was a struggle. It was. I mean, I feel like people think that January is the most depressing month of the year. I don't agree. I think it's more whenever the weather starts to tease you and then it gets cold again. This is where I lose it, and that's March for me. But I did finish some books. Some of them I actually really enjoyed. Now that I'm looking at a little list, I'm like, I had some really good books there, but I also just struggled to finish some. We're just gonna go for it. The first book that I finished was Other Birds, and it feels like that was a lifetime ago. Straight up a lifetime ago, but I did really enjoy this one. I feel like I've read a lot of more contemporaries than I usually do. I usually keep them for the summer, and this one could technically be called a little bit of magical realism, but it's definitely not overpowering. It's not my usual genre, but you follow this young girl. She is going to university, so she moves out into the apartment that used to be her mother's. Her dad remarried a couple years ago. She doesn't really get along with them, so she goes to move in there in a small little town, in a small coastal town, and she kind of befriends the people that live there. And I think that was part of the beauty of it, because everyone wants to belong, but everyone has been really isolated, and she seems to be the person that will bring everyone together, and you learn more of their backstory, the reasons they're there. And throughout the book you have some chapters that are like ghost stories, so there are ghosts around them, but like it's not like a ghost story, so you find out people that were important to them, and just I ended up really enjoying it and being fairly emotionally invested, a lot more than expected once again. I think I'm going to give it like a 4.5 stars. I feel like if you like reading books about characters that are trying to like found family vibes, I think you would enjoy this. Don't be scared of the whole ghost story. It's not really heavy on that. It's definitely more about these friendships, and it was cute, it was short, and I enjoyed it. Good vibes to start the month. Okay, then I read Migration, which I think that did not help. The ratings are really good. A lot of you told me that you really enjoyed it, but reading slump plus listening to that as an audiobook, it put me in a, not reading slump, in a depression. You following this woman, it sounds like the world is crashing, okay, like apocalyptic setting, but at the same time it's like a slowly melancholic kind of book, because she is on a mission. She wants to follow these birds for their last migration, so she figures out a way to get on this fishing boat to just follow them, and she is not doing well mentally. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't want to spoil it, because again, not that much happens, so you're just following them through that, and you get the flashbacks of what happened for her to be there. And it was fine. I have no hard feelings against the book, but not really my thing, and the worst possible time to be listening to it as an audiobook. There's no way I would have finished it as a physical book, but the audiobook, like, what am I gonna do? Like, yeah, I can just do things and listen to, although sometimes that's still too much. But yeah, sheer stubbornness, I finished it, and yeah, that was definitely a contributor to me not having a great month. The reviews are not bad though, it's definitely a me thing, but yes, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. But like, it's not the book's fault, you know? Next we have The Bluest Eye. I read the second half in diagonal because the writing style didn't really work for me. I know Toni Morrison is really loved. I do have two. Yes, I have Beloved and Sula on my shelves by her too. I want to try them. I want to read more by her because I had heard great things, but the writing, like I said, I just felt disconnected, a bit dry. It just didn't flow for me, and it does happen sometimes with classics. They tend to be slower, but the topic is very... You're following this young girl, she isn't beautiful, and she is like living her childhood, noticing things around her and things happening, and she just wants to be loved and beautiful, and then there's triggering stuff happening. So I just started reading in diagonal. I just couldn't do it. I didn't care for it. So it wasn't for me. Just because a book is, you know, a classic and beloved doesn't mean that it will connect, you will connect to it. And it needs to be okay. We need to acknowledge that that's okay. So unfortunately it wasn't for me, but I'm still going to be reading more books by her, and hopefully I have a better experience with them. But yes, this was not... I don't even want to give it a rating because it's not the book's fault. It's just, I don't know. Anything after Migration is not the book's fault. But yeah, it just wasn't for me, so we're just gonna move on. Then I broke my own heart because I read this one. This was one of your recommendations. This was one of your best book of last year. This is 10 minutes, 38 seconds in this strange world, and I was not prepared. This took me again, a week to read this, even though it's like 300 pages, but I really enjoy this. You do not want to binge read. Can you emotionally binge read? I don't think so. But you're following this woman who is left for dead. Is it behind a dumpster? In a dumpster. And she was murdered. She was a sex worker and her body is found, and you know. But for the first part of the book, you're following her for like 10 minutes in her head, having flashbacks because her brain is still active for 10 minutes, blah, blah. And you get flashbacks of things that happened in her life, basically how she got there, but most importantly, how she met the important people in her life. And then in second part, you see the effects, you know, of her passing away on these people. And this is where I started tearing up because, oh my God, there's a scene that got to me. But in general, I just really, really enjoy this one. I was really emotionally invested and I didn't want it to end. It's all set in Istanbul too, which I don't feel like I've read many books set there. It's about found family, great friendships, and there are a few hard events that happen. Obviously, you don't get to where she was without that, but I think what got to me is that, you know, she starts by dying, which first off, I love that trope. Like, I feel like that starts good. I feel like the book starts intense. There's only a few books that I've read with that specific trope, and I've all liked them. But it starts with that, and then you don't want her to get to that point. Like, I wanted her to come back because you see the effects on the people that she loved. And yeah, I love this. So 5-star, I will be reading more by the author. You will see that, or you might have already seen that in my TBR because I need more in my life. And then I listened to Know My Name by Chanel Miller, which I chose really intense emotional books this month, which like I wanted to feel something, clearly. If you don't know, Chanel Miller is the woman who was essayed by Brock Turner, and she wrote her story to tell her side of the story, basically. The audiobook was 15 hours, which like I was a little worried that I would find it too long, but no, it was a great book. The author is definitely talented. I think that I already knew about the situation. I feel like we've all heard of it, but getting so much more of the backstory enraged me all over again. And the fact that it lasts so long, like the whole situation, it keeps just affecting her life, obviously. And I feel like that's looked past so much in the media, being like, oh, it's 20 minutes. Yeah, look how many years that affected her, and it's still affecting her, obviously, but I meant like the trial and everything. Anyway, yes, it was great. I hate reading nonfictions, especially like memoirs, because like, who am I to judge your life? But I highly recommend it. You guys were recommending it to me, and it had been on my waiting list at the library forever, but I just wasn't in a mood. And clearly this month I was like, you know what? I'm already living a lot of emotional trauma. Let's add this, but it was great. It was great. Do recommend. I also listened to How to Keep House While Drowning, which is a gentle approach to cleaning and organizing. It's 3 hours. It's 3 hours. The waiting list took forever though at the library. It's very popular. And I was joking around whenever I mentioned that I wanted to read this, that I felt like it was a bit too late for me because I'm not drowning anymore. But 2 years ago when I added it to my TBR, I definitely did, because I've been dealing with a lot of health issues, and like slowly, very slowly, things are improving. And I feel like some of the realization, or like things she explained in the book, are realization that I went through 2 years ago, and I thought it would be fun to just mention it because I didn't have time in any vlog. I forgot. And I feel like her advice was similar to some of the things I went through. So one example, like one of her tips is to just make it as easy for you as possible. You're in survival mode. Like, you don't have to make things perfect. And again, that's exactly what I went through. For example, I hate doing the dishes. I hate doing the dishes. And like, I would wait for it to be worth it, you know? And it would just accumulate, which made it worse. And I had a similar rule with like the dishwasher. I feel like I couldn't or shouldn't start it when it wasn't full, or I also couldn't put pots and pans in there. As if I didn't buy the cheapest one I could find. Like, it was just so ridiculous when I realized who decided that these were the rules, and who would know? No one is in my house. No one knows what I put in my dishwasher. Who cares? So I had that realization, which again, she explains, and I just started making my life easier by just putting everything in the freaking dishwasher and starting it before it's full. Because you're gonna need the stuff. So like, instead of using it like twice a week, I use it every 2 days, which, to be fair with the cats, they use a lot of plates, okay, to eat. So I have to use it every 2 days max. Otherwise, I go insane and like there's just stuff everywhere. So that has changed my life. It sounds like an intense reaction, but it genuinely made my life so much better. And yeah, she explained her whole home situation similarly. She was mentioning her weakness. Well, one of them was definitely laundry, which she has kids, so like makes sense. So my kids use a lot of plates. Her kids have a lot of clothes. So yeah, that was definitely validating. Like I said, I don't feel like I needed it right now anymore, but it felt great to hear someone go through the same things as I have. So yes, would recommend this book. Like I said, it's 3 hours and it's easy to listen to it as an audiobook while you actually do some cleaning. Maybe it will, motivate you a little bit. But I really appreciated that she just explained how in so many ways she attempted to make it as easy as possible until, she survived. Stop judging yourself so much and maybe second guess, question a little bit all these rules that you have in your head. Like some of them just why? Like it made no sense. But yeah, I was putting so much pressure on myself for no reason. Anyway, that was one of my little fun moments. And then I did my read it or unhaul it, which was a lot of fun. It lasted a long time this month, but I finished 2 books, a 3-star, probably more 2-star, but 2 books. And one of them I did like, which like we like when the jar provides us with some good books, okay? But the jar does work in mysterious ways, and it made me read 2 books by the same author, which I'm still not over that. I think it's so funny. And specifically, where did I put the other one? I don't know where I put it, but Vigilance. This was a sci-fi, so I cannot escape sci-fi. Even though I thought it was a fantasy when I put the name on a paper, the green paper to go in the jar, so whatever. But it was the same author, so like it makes sense. But Vigilance was not for me. I was not the target audience. I think that's another case, like the other book, of like, not a bad book, just I'm not the target audience whatsoever. This was very much pew-pew heavy for me. And it's meant to be, like it's social commentary based, it's in the US set in 2030, and it's like dystopian futuristic version of the US where everyone basically young or not white escaped the hellscape, and as a consequence you have a lot of people that is ideal person for the show. It's not really a TV show, it's on the internet. But the reality show basically brings a lot of what can I say on YouTube? I feel like I'm so over trying to like be careful what I say on here. They bring a bunch of shooters, telling them basically that they'll pay their debt and give them money, blah, 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 if they participate. So they bring shooters in like a mall, for example, and I feel like that should be really triggering for Americans anyway. And then people, try to survive. Anyway, dystopian, crazy to me. And yeah, it was fine. It's definitely very action focused, so if that's your jam, you would enjoy it. I thought it was a more social commentary heavy version of The Running Man, kind of a little bit. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, and that's okay. Not the book's fault, but for me it's probably a 2-star because I rate my books based on my enjoyment. But it feels unfair to give it 2-star because it's not a bad book. I'm just not the right person. Moving on, that book is being on haul. I then picked up this book, which is City of Blades, which is the second book after City of Stairs. I think it's the Divine Something series. Either way, this is now the 4th book that I've read by this author, and I realized that the 3 that I've read that are fantasy, I have a very similar opinion of. Let me start by telling you what this is about. While this is the 2nd book, it's almost a companion novel to the other book, and some of you confirmed in the comment section that it's basically the case with all the books. Obviously, you still have to read all of them, but it's a murder mystery 5 years in the future after book 1, and it's still the same world. Old gods disappear, did they, some effects on the world. And I love the murder mystery section. Felt the same with book 1. And then I kind of lose interest when all the action, pew pew, swoosh swoosh happens in the second half. And I felt the same when I read Countryside by him. So like, I don't know what happens with his writing, or just, I don't know, we just don't connect in terms of action. So no hard feelings because I still gave it 4 stars. Like I still really enjoyed the murder mystery. And I feel like I didn't mention it in the vlog, but the main female character was interesting. I was on a mission last year to try to read more books where the main female character was an adult. Like not just an adult, but like a grown adult. And she is much older. I don't think she says her age, but she's a general. So was retired and then she's brought back to investigate disappearance of this person. So I really enjoyed her character because not only is she, you know, obviously a tough woman, but she went through a lot, and you kind of see the flashback and the effects on her, and she was just a more interesting, more complex female character than skinny, purple hair, girly pop. So, but yeah, I enjoyed the book. Just, there's something about the action, but I will be reading book 3. So I feel like I'm making it sound bad, but like, it's just been obsessively going through my head. Like, why is there something about the writing and the action? But a lot of you told me that you also enjoyed the series, so I'll be reading book 3. I'll let you know what happens. And then what I'm currently reading, audiobook, I am 67% into Life as We Knew It, which is a post-apocalyptic, which one of my favorite genre. I kind of go in waves with it though, and I am glad I picked this up. It is why I hesitated because of that, but a lot of you told me that once again, this is a good book, and I believe you. I trust you. And it's written in like journal entry style, and I feel like that works really well as an audiobook. So I'm glad I did that. And essentially following this young girl, and she was in high school when the moon, which did I mishear? But I think it was already damaged, and then it gets hit, and like basically half of it just explodes and brings itself closer to Earth, and it affects, you know, volcanoes, and like the apocalypse basically happens, and you're following her and her family as this is happening. So a lot of like preparing, hoarding cans, and cutting wood, which apparently I enjoy. So sometimes when you describe a book, it makes it sound a bit silly, but I love post-apocalyptic books, so I really wanted to try this one, and I'm curious how it's going to end, because like I said, I've read or listened to the first 2/3, and there's a lot of like building up, and I'm afraid of like what's going to happen to them, because I would not want to survive the apocalypse. I feel like people on the internet, some of them are like really prepared for it. I'm like, I don't want to. I'm not equipped to. I'm not. I would just die right away. I want to. Well, ooh, that sounded a bit darker than I meant, but like, I don't want to survive the apocalypse. Like, what am I going to do when I don't have any painkillers for my tummy when it's my time of the month? I'm not surviving without my little like heated blanket. I don't want to live in the world where it doesn't exist. So yeah, I'm listening to it, and even though I'm making it sound a little crazy right now, I am enjoying it. Like 4-star level, but obviously the last third might change my mind. We'll see, but I'm glad I gave it a shot, even though it is YA. They just tend to be a little bit more hit and miss, right? So that's it. These are the books that I finished during the month of March. I finished a little less than I usually do, but I mean, it's still a good amount. I had a decent time. We're gonna ignore migration. It's not even the book's fault. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being too nice about it. If you had a rough time with it, please confirm in the comment section so we can just all say that it sucks. The writing was beautiful though. That's what annoyed me, but like, anyway, I'm gonna get prepared and I'm gonna start a reading vlog right now. I'm excited. I'm reading a really hyped book, and I'm hoping it's the solution to all my problems. I'll be putting more videos on the screen, including my TBR if you haven't seen it for the month of April. We're hoping for some changes. We're hoping for some 5 stars, and hopefully that will happen. See you in the next video. Bye.